Here, and today we'll be focusing on Excel, still on Excel in data analytics. And in today's class, we'll be looking at VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, count if, the count ifs. We have the count if, the one without an S, and then we have count if, the one with an S. We have index, we have match, and we have index match. And we also have the if statement, the if or. I think we've done something on the if statement. So probably possibly we'll also be doing something on if or, if none, if or, if none, and if or. Yes. There's or as OR, no as NOR. And then the if statement, then the count if and the count if. Count ifs and count if. So these are the basic Excel function that you need to know, and then you're good to go for Excel. So basically we'll be starting with the VLOOKUP and explaining VLOOKUP and its function. First here, just like we have on our screen already, VLOOKUP is a vertical lookup that searches for a value in the first column of a table and returns the corresponding value from a specified column, right? So let's break it down. We could either call it VLOOKUP or we say it's a vertical lookup. What it does is that it searches for a value in the first column of a table, and then it will return its answer, its value, to wherever you want it to be displayed. So let's say I'm looking for a table, I'm looking for a specific data in a column. It's going to give me the answer. Even though the answer is in that column, it's still going to display the answer for me in whatever column I want it to be displayed. So just chill, and we're going to do the practical aspect. So first, the VLOOKUP has the syntax, which is also the formula, is the equation sign first. Remember, in Excel, what comes first is the equation sign. So the equation sign first, then you introduce your formula. VLOOKUP, you open a bracket, you're looking out for a value, your table array, your column index number, and then your range lookup. And let's explain this one after the other. So explaining this one after the other, the lookup value helps you to search for any value you're looking out for. So basically, let's say we have a student data set, and then the first thing on the data set, the first column there is the student ID, followed by the student name, the student course, the student grade, and every other information we need to have about the student. So the first we are looking out for is the student ID, which is the lookup value, and then the table array is the full table, that's the range containing the data. So let's say I earlier mentioned we could have the student table, then and the last could be the student grade. So let's say it started from A to column F, so the whole of that table, so we have, let's say, A2 to A40. So we can arrange it and say we are looking out for this data within the table set, within the data set of A2 to F40. So that's your table array. And then the column index is the column number of the results starting from 1. So I want a value in column 4. So I will enter, I'm looking for this value in column 4. That will be my column index number. Then the range lookup means find this exact match. So it could be that whatever thing we're looking for could either be, first is to find the exact match, then true is to find approximately something close to. So let's say we have a data set of a company that has staff earning between 40 to 80k. So I'm like, look out for a staff. Let's say a staff's name, the staff name is Joshua. Look out for Joshua current salary range, and if it's, let's look out for something that is close to Joshua current salary range, and then I'll use true, that is approximate, something close. But if I'm looking out for the exact match, it should be false. So let's do a practical aspect so we'll get it clearer. So this is my data set. So we are using a student data set, and we'll use it to answer the rest of the questions. So here we have the first column, the student ID, second one, the name, the third the gender, the fourth the score, then followed by the subject and then the grade. So the question here says we should find the grade of a student with the ID 103. So we are looking at for the student grade now. So the first step is that we're going to go to an empty cell here. So let's say we are using H to display our answers. And then remember our formula, we introduce our formula, and the way to introduce our formula is the equation sign. Then VLOOKUP. Once you type this and you're going to have this open up. And remember we said the first step is what? The column, that is the ID. We are looking at for the student ID. And remember the instruction is 103. We are looking at for the student ID in 103. So this is 103, then the comma sign, and then the table range, which is so we're going to highlight this from beginning to the end, and this is A2 to F7, the equation, the comma sign, and we are looking out for this student is in column what? We are looking out for grade, right? And grade is in column 6. Assuming we said we are looking out for the student's ID 103, student with the ID 103, we are looking out for their subject, his or her subject. So we'll use 5. But now we are looking out for the grade, so we are using 6. And because why? Grade is in column 6, subject is in column 5, but we are not looking out for subject, we are rather looking out for grade. So the comma sign and then 6 here, then comma, we are looking out for exact match. And remember, if you can look now, you see the Excel is already displaying, do you want the exact match or the approximate match? So we are looking out for the exact match, so we click on force and then close the brackets and then click on enter. So now C. So let's go back. Student in column, student with the ID 103, let me rephrase that. Student with the ID 103 is Brian, and what? He's a male. That's what is his grade. He has a C. So we are right on this. So the next is on VLOOKUP. So let's see. Okay, rather XLOOKUP rather. XLOOKUP is a modern replacement for VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP actually falls in the traditional data analysis, understanding, let me say, traditional data analysis. Yes, the formulas used, it was previously used, but now it's not like it can be used either. It could be used, but XLOOKUP is a modern replacement because it has other functions. So but let's understand it first. So here we have a syntax. Okay, understanding it, XLOOKUP is a modern replacement for VLOOKUP because it allows you to search in any column and return results from any other column. So the difference here is that VLOOKUP, you're searching vertically, and most times it's always you're searching with the first column. So I can't go to Excel here and say I'm looking for a student name, that use Brian's name now to determine his grade. I would rather use Brian's student ID. But if name was the first, I will use name. So that is to say VLOOKUP actually uses the first column, but with XLOOKUP you can look out for values from any column you're looking at you're using. So here the introduction first, the syntax, which is the formula, is the equation sign XLOOKUP is equal to the lookup value. This is which is what you're searching for. The lookup x-ray, the column where the search happens. The return array, which is the column to return a result from. Then if not found, and then we have the match mode and then the search mode. We understand it. So first is if not found, you give it a message to display. That's a default message, or then the match type that you're looking at for. So let's get down here and try this. So but there's something about XLOOKUP. Okay, let's try it out first and then we understand where XLOOKUP can work and where it cannot work. So here we have a question. Find the subject of the student named Mary. So what's the goal? We want to find out what subject Mary is taking. So we'll continue with each column. So in an empty cell, the equation sign XLOOKUP. From here now, from introducing the formula, you should have found out that there is a problem. But I will highlight the problem first after this. So we are looking out for name, Mary. So Mary should be in quotes. Then now instead of highlighting the whole data set, that's the difference between XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP. We are highlighting where the column that has the name, which is B2 to B7, and then the comma. And remember the question says what subject is Mary taking, and which of the column has subject? It is E. So we click on column. This is column here. We highlight column from the beginning to the end of it, and then we close the brackets. So actually what this simplify is that assuming we are looking for, we are saying what gender is Mary. Okay, let's say what's the name that could be used between a male. Okay, let's just say Mary is a unisex name, and now we want to understand what gender is Mary. So we'll have B, and then instead of subject we'll be highlighting gender, which is C2 to C7. So that is it. So XLOOKUP actually works with the columns you are answering the question from. Mary is what we are searching for, and then B2 to B7 is the list of names where we are looking at, from where we are picking our highlight from, which is Mary. And then E2 to E7 is the subject list of what we will return. So if you click enter here now, it's doing name, and that's why I said we are going to understand where XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP works. XLOOKUP basically doesn't work with all Excel, especially if you still have Excel of 213. I actually did this, so if you have updated Excel, you could also try it out. So to know what Excel you're working with, your version of Excel, go to file here and then go to accounts, and then you see that you actually for me I have Excel 213, which XLOOKUP would not accept. Remember, XLOOKUP is the updated version of VLOOKUP, is a modernized one. So you're going to use other updated version of Excel. I will drop the Excel version that you could use to work with for XLOOKUP. So here we could use index match to answer this question, but before then let's understand what index match is. So but we won't skip, because our next here is count if. So the count if here counts the number of cells that meet a single condition. So I could say count the number of students that has 70 and above. So let's say I'm teaching a subject, let's say a subject maths, and now I said pick a student, count the number of students that were able to score 70 and above in this subject. So that is where count if comes in. That is why it's defined that count if counts the number that meets a single condition, right? So now the syntax equals to count if range and then the criteria. Range is the cells you are counting from, and then the condition. So let's go here. So let's go back to our data set we're using to answer this question. And we have a question that says we want to count how many scores are greater than 85, right? So now scores are in column D. So assuming we are saying count how many females that are in this data set, and that is where we'll come in. So we'll answer this question. So now we are counting this. Okay, we're not saving yet. So we want to count this, and then the formula is the equation sign, count if first, then open a bracket. We are counting with the scores, so we highlight, we are counting the scores D2 to D7, and then we say greater than 85, and then close the quotes and then close the bracket. So 3. So let's see if this is right. Remember, the formula is, the goal is to achieve, we want to count how many scores that are greater than 85, and then it says there are three scores that are greater than 35. So wow. So let's see. We have 88, we have 95, and we have 92. Exactly. So three. So you can actually use these for an office in an office setting. Let's say we want to count how many students, sorry, how many staffs, and more than 200. $200 per month or per week. Or we could also say how many staffs came to work for the whole of the week using the attendance. So this is where count if can be used. It could be used anywhere. The first thing is understanding your data set, understanding your question, and then you can apply. Then we have the count ifs. The count ifs go, let's see here their functions and how we could identify them. The count ifs here counts the number of rows that meets multiple criteria. So let's say count ifs range 1, criteria 1, range 2, criteria 2. So you can check for multiple of conditions. Count, that's why this one has an S, and then the previous one does not have an S. That is to say, the one with an S can help you count based on different conditions and criteria, and then the one without an S helps you to count on just one criteria. So here, let's see, you can check for multiple conditions across the column. So let's answer a question with count ifs, still using our data sets. So here we have how many female students scored above 80. Wow. So this is it. We want to count students who are female first and then that scored more than 80. That is the sole purpose of count if. So the first step here, we are saying we'll just use the same column. So we do the equation sign, introduce the formula, count ifs, the one with an S, open a bracket, and then first is to remember the goal is to count students who are female, afterwards the ones that scored more than 80. So now first step is the gender is on C, right? That is to help us identify people that are female and people that are male. So we highlight the C1 to wherever it ends, which is C2 to C7, then have the comma sign, and then the equation sign in quotes F. So we are dealing on F. Assuming the question was male students who scored more than 80, M will be in quotes. So, but now our sole goal, our sole purpose is to identify students that are female, and afterwards the ones that are female that scored more than 80. So F in quotes, then the comma sign. Now the scores are in D, so we highlight D from wherever it started to the end. So here we have D2 to D7, the comma sign, and then in quotes greater than 80. So in quotes again, and then we close the brackets and click on enter. So it's giving us 2. Basically, C2 to C7 checks if the student is female, and then D2 to D7 checks the people that scored more than 80. So we have 2 as the answer here. Why? We actually have 3 female from our data set, but the question is females that scored more than 80. And let's see, female here, Angela 95, Rachel 85, and Mary 67. So actually Rachel and Angela scored 80 and above, and that is why we have 2. So that is it for how to solve this question. Then the index plus match also has its own, but we'll continue from there. We'll continue with the index and then index match on our next video rather. We'll continue with that on our next video, but first let me make a summary of this. VLOOKUP helps to searching the first column, then the XLOOKUP when you want more flexibility, like searching for name, and the other time the reason XLOOKUP is searched for name, yes, it's not minding if the name is in the first column or not. XLOOKUP does the work for you. Count if is one of those conditions that helps you to choose a give choose a specific criteria, then the count if it's for more than one criteria, and then the index and then match and then the index match. We'll continue in our next video. Thank you.